I got a question for the Hebrew Israelites. If an Israelite man has a baby with the Ashkenaz woman, is the baby Israelite or Ashkenaz? And how come y'all don't give the same energy to the Ethiopian Jews? Or any other Jews for that matter? I just can't figure it out.
Shalom. I want to give all honors and glories and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Wakakodash, Yahweh, which is the one true name of the Heavenly Father, Yahushai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but his one true name is Yahushai, Bahashem, meaning coming in the name, Ba means coming in, Ha means the, Shah means name, Rakah means spirit, Kodash means holy, peace, blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect, and shalom to you, sincere brothers that are scattered abroad, pushing forth this word in truth and sincerity. And shalom to you, sincere sisters that are listening in silence, as the scriptures command you to do so. I am the brother Mashiach Arazakah, and pretty much in this lesson, you've seen in the video, the clip, this wacky tacky dude is on TikTok, and he has two different subjects that he's going into. He's asking a question: if a woman is pregnant by Ashkenaz, is that person considered Ashkenaz, or considered that person? And then he's going into why the Ethiopian Jews, we ain't getting on the Ethiopian Jews. So he got two different type of topics that he's mentioning. So I'm going to make this really quick with understanding to the best of my ability. And Lord willing, this lesson's edifying. I don't really have a title yet. I'll probably come up with a title once I upload this video. But yeah, once again, you got these wacky tacky Christians, not understanding the proper understanding of the scriptures. Okay. Now, the first thing I'm going to go on is he's pretty going on against nationality wise. And, a lot of these wacky tacky Christians, they follow Esau's term of nationality with when your mother, let's say, for example, let's say an individual, his mother's white and his daddy is black. They'll use that term as he's half white, half black, because his mom is white and his dad is black. So he has, his nationality is of his mom because his mom is white, and then of his dad also because his dad is black. So his mom and his dad makes his nationality, which that's not scriptural. Okay, it doesn't matter about the mother. It's all about the lineage of the father. So due to that individual of that situation, because you might have a Jake that be like, okay, so if he's not half white, half black, then what is he? Well, according to the scriptures, if his father is a so-called Negro or so-called black man, right, he is of the line of Judah, even if his mom is an Edomite. So if his mom is a so-called white person, which is number 2, which is of Edom, right, and his father is a so-called Negro, right, which is of Judah, he's a Judite according to the scriptures. It doesn't matter about his mother. Okay, that child is an Israelite. If their father is of this seed line from the top of Judah or Negroes all the way down to Hispanics there at the bottom, they're Israelites. Okay, Judah is so-called Negroes, Benjamin is West Indians, Levi is Haitians, Shimeon is Dominicans, Zebulon is Guatemalans, Panamanians, Ephraim is Puerto Ricans, Manasseh is Cubans, Gad is North American Indians, Reuben is Seminole Indians, right? Naphtali is Argentinians and Chileans, right? Asher is Colombians and Uruguayans, and Issachar is Hispanics. So if these males right here have sex or have kids with any of these women from number 2 on down to 18, those children are still coming out Israelites. It doesn't matter about the height. It doesn't matter about their hair color. It doesn't matter if they got freckles in their face. It doesn't matter if they 6'2". It don't matter if they 5'7", 5'5". Don't matter what color eye color they got, what type of facial hair they got. It doesn't matter about that. Okay, their nationality is determined from the seed line of their father, and the spirit beareth witness. Okay, we just don't go off of skin tone, and that's what a lot of these wacky tacky Christians think. They think we go off of skin tone. Just because a person is melanated and dark skinned, that don't make them an Israelite. You got dark skinned Arabs, yes, you got dark skinned Arabs out there. You got dark skinned Arabs. You got Hamites, right, which are so called Africans that are dark skinned, right? You even got dark skinned white people, sister, right? Their father's an Edomite. They're not Israelites. Now their mom is an Israelite. Their mom is a Jake, but their dad is an Edomite. Sister, Tamara, whatever their names are. They got a brother that played in a show called Smart Guy. They're Edomites. They look like Israelites though, because you got tares out there, but they Edomites. Now you got another situation like Blake Griffin. His mother's an Edomite, and his father is a what? A Haitian. A Haitian is what? Of the tribe of Levi. So you see how you got Israelites, and then you have tares, right? So you got Israelites and you have tares. So your nationality is determined from the seed line of your father. So let's get that first, and then we're gonna break down who the Ethiopians are, because he said, why we ain't speaking about the Ethiopian Jews? And we speak about them all the time. The Ethiopians over there, those are Hamites. They're not Israelites. And we got scriptures to back that up. This is Numbers 1 and 18. And they assemble all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared the pedigrees. Now, that word pedigrees there, what does it go into?
Pedigree.
Right? The record of descent of an animal, showing it to be purebred, right? Number 2 says the record ancestry, especially upper class ancestry of a person or a family, right? A lineage, right? Lineage. Lineal descent from an ancestry or pedigree. You see that? Descent. The origin or background of a person in terms of family or nationality. So there you go. That's what pedigrees mean. All right? Ancestry. One's family or ethnic descent. So a person who you descend from. So when you read in Numbers 1 and 18, it talks about pedigrees there. That's referring to what?
Descent.
The origin or background of a person in terms of family or nationality. So now, when we see pedigrees here, right? We see this word pedigrees here. We know it means what? Descend. Who you descend from. Your lineage, your nationality comes of. You see that? So let's read from the top. Numbers 1 and 18. And they assembled all the congregations together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers. So you see, your nationality is determined from the seed line of your father. I'll use myself as an example. Now, my mother, she's a Jake, but she's from Liberia, Africa. Monrovia, Liberia, Africa. My parents are what Esau and them will call them is biracial. They're not the same. So my mom, she's from Liberia, Africa. She's not from the U.S. Now she got a green card and all that. My mom is not from the U.S. Okay, she's from the islands. She's from Monrovia, Liberia. That's in the southern west part coast of Africa. Now my father is a Native American Indian. He's Omaha Ponca. So according to the scriptures of Number 1 and 18, I'm of the lineage of my father, not my mother. So my nationality is determined from what? The seed line of my father. So I'm a Native American Indian. I'm Ponca. I'm Native American Indian. So I'm a Gadite according to the scriptures. It doesn't matter about my mom, because the scriptures say in Numbers 1 and 18, and they assembled all the congregations together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees, their nationality, who they descend from, right? Their descent, their ancestry, after their fathers. So by your father is determined your nationality, not your mother. Your father determines your nationality. So if your mother is let's say Japanese, and your father is a so-called Hispanic, that child is an Israelite. That doesn't matter about the mom. That child is still an Israelite. Even the features, it may come out looking totally like the mom. May have the whole features of the mom, right? But it's still a Jake. That child is still a Jake because what? His father's a Hispanic, or his father's a Negro, or his father's a Native American or a Seminole Indian. That child is an Israelite. All right? So it doesn't matter about the mother, and that's the slip up in society today. That's why so many of our people, they don't know what they are, because they've been taught your mom is this, your dad is that, your mom is this, your dad is that, or they go into these DNA clinics and they get all these different percentages. Oh, you're 65% African, you're 75% Asian, you're 45% black, you're 20%. How can you have all these percentages in your body? You mean to tell me your mom slept with all these different people to form you? No. Your mom slept with one guy. That one guy slept with your mom, and you were born. So if your father is a so-called Negro, you're a Judite. You're a Judite. Okay? If your mother slept with a so-called Native American, you're a Gadite. If you're whatever your mother's nationality is, whoever she slept with and you came born after that man, you're of that lineage of that man. So if your father's a so-called white man and your mom is black, you're an Edomite. There is no, oh, you're half white, half black. There's none of that. There's no, oh, you're half African, half Native American. No, there ain't none of that. You're that of what your father is. So if your father is a so-called Native American and your mom is black, you're a Native American. It don't matter about the mother. The mother carries the egg. Yeah, she carries the child, but the seed is what forms the egg. The egg is dead already in the woman's uterus, okay? It's dead already. But once that man's sperm hits that egg, it brings life to that egg. That's how that child is born from the nationality of the sea line of that man. So that's what the pedigree is, right? Pedigree goes into what? Lineage, right? After their fathers. So your nationality is from your line of your father, not your mother. By the houses of their fathers, right? It says pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. So there you go. Your nationality is determined from the sea line of your father, not your mother. Your father doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter. Your mother doesn't matter, man. It's your father, not your mother. Your mother doesn't matter. It don't matter what your mother is. All right? Your nationality is determined from your father. That's what matters, man. So Salakia if I said the wrong thing. I felt like I said the wrong thing. But your nationality is determined from the line of your father, not your mother. Your mother don't matter. Alright? Now he said he's talking about the nationality thing, and this is Romans 8:16. Because you guys still got Israelites out there. They don't know that they Israelites. Majority of our people, they don't know that they Israelites. You know? You got Israelites out there in Germany. You got Israel out there in Italy. You got Israelites out there in Vietnam still. Yes, you got Jakes out there in Vietnam. You had Jake men that went over there in Vietnam during the Vietnam Wars and popped those Vietnamese women, and they got kids over there still to this day. You got Jakes over there in Vietnam, man. You got Israelites scattered everywhere throughout the world. You got Israelites in Thailand. You got Israelites in Japan, China. My dad was in Japan for like 5-6 years when he was in the military during the 70s and the early of his 20s. Because my father's a former Marine. My father was in fucking Japan for 7 years and learned martial arts out there. My father's a martial artist as well. Like, I'm trying to give you my whole history, but my father was in Japan for 7-8 years and became a master black belt out there from Japan. So my father learned his shit in Japan, not in the U.S. So just to prove that Jake's been everywhere. Okay? This is Romans 8:16. It says the Spirit itself bear witness with our spirit. So this is why when we out there teaching the word, just for an example, we don't be, oh, you're white on the outside, you're an Edomite. You Asian on the outside, you're a Moabite. No, we don't do that because it's the Spirit beareth witness. The Spirit beareth witness. Okay, the Spirit beareth witness, because you can have a Jake that may look like a heathen on the outside, but the lineage of his father can always go back to Jake. It could be of a so-called Negro, Hispanic, or Native American Indian. We don't know. That's why the Spirit bear witness. We don't turn people away by their skin color. Now, you got other Israelites doing that, which they ass is going off, because you don't know specifically. I remember one time when I first came into the truth, it was a Jake. I forgot what camp it was. I think it was I forgot what camp it was, but they were calling this. This individual, because he was white. He looked at white. He had blonde hair. He had blue eyes. Had freckles and all that. And these Jakes were calling him a heathen. They was like, "Oh, you're an Edomite. You're a heathen. You're gonna be destroyed. You're a heathen. You're an Edomite." And he's like, "Bro, I'm not an Edomite." He's like, "My dad is black." And the Jake dude's like, "You're a liar. You're a demon. You're a devil." He pulled out a picture from his phone and showed him that his father was dark. His father was dark as hell, man. His father was dark. His father was a so-called Negro. Right? He showed him his father and he showed him his mother. And those individuals felt stupid. Oh, Salakia, brother. Da, 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 da. This is why we don't do that. Because you don't know. That dude could look like a straight up Edomite. And his dad could be a so-called Negro. That has happened. That has happened. Right? That's happening now. You got Jakes out there. They may took the features of the mother, but their nationality is from the lineage of their father. So this is why we don't. Blake Griffin's son has blonde hair and blue eyes. And Blake Griffin's father is a Haitian. Blake Griffin's father is dark, very dark. right? But if you look at Blake Griffin, he like an Edomite, but he a Jake, he a Haitian, he an Israelite. His son is an Israelite. You look at his son got blonde hair, blue eyes. He's still an Israelite. That's why we don't judge off of off of phenotype. It says spirit itself bear witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. So you see that? We don't judge on the outward appearance. The spirit bear witness. Okay? So while that dude went up there doing that video on TikTok, talking about if half Ashkenaz and half this, that don't matter about nothing. Whatever that father is right there, that's with that woman, whatever that woman is, and what that father is, that child's gonna come out what that father is. So if he's a so-called Ashkenaz are Edomites in them anyway. They're descendants of Amalek. Okay, so they're Edomites. They're descendants of the first grandson of Esau, who's Amalek. Go to Genesis. Read the book of Genesis, right? It talks all about the lineage of Esau, and the so-called white people, the Edomites today, they descend from the first grandson of Esau, who is Amalek. So those Ashkenazis over there, because there's no such thing as an Ashkenazi Jew, those are Amalekites. They descend from Esau, the first grandson of Esau, who's Amalek. So if an Ashkenazi already, because you're already using Ashkenazi in your video, that's an Edomite. So whoever he sleep with, whatever woman sleeps with him, whether it's an Ethiopian woman, whether it's a Chinese woman, Japanese woman, that child's an Edomite. Because we just proved their numbers 1 in 18. So all that stuff you talking about over there means nothing, man. Now, he said, why don't we get on the Ethiopian Jews over there? Yes, you got a lot of heathen nations that's claiming to be the Israelites. Okay, you got the Ashkenazis, you got the Sephardic Jews. The Sephardic Jews too. They claim to be Israelites. You got the Ashkenazi Jews, right? You got the Ashkenazis. They claim to be Israelites. And you got the Ethiopians. They claim to be Israelites, but they're not Israelites. Okay, just because their religion is Judaism, that don't make them a true Israelite. Okay, Judaism is a man-made religion anyway. It's not the true pure religion that we have. Okay, but the Ethiopians, they're heathens, and we're gonna prove that in this lesson. This is Amos 9:7. It says, "Are ye not as children of the Ethiopians unto me?" Now, this is the scripture that a lot of people will read to try to justify that Ethiopians are Israelites, and they're not. All right, so this is what we're reading right here. Amos 9:7. It says, "Are ye not as children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel?" It says, saith the Lord, have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Caphtor, and the Syrians from Tyre, right? So it said, are ye not children, right? Are ye not as children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? You see that there? Now, the reason why it says that is because some of our people look like the Ethiopians, but they're two different nationalities. Okay, we're two different. There's a difference between us. Okay, there's a total difference between us. We're two different nations. Okay, we may look similar, but we're two different nations. Them damn Ethiopians are Cushites. They come from the lineage of Ham. They're Hamites. Okay, so there's a difference between us. Okay, so look, our people may, we may look like them. There's a look-alike. The Ethiopians, but there's a difference between us. All right, these Ethiopians, their forefathers is of Ham. Okay, the Israelites, we go back to Shem. So we may have the same melanin skin, but that don't mean that we're exactly the same people. Okay, we have we're two different nations. Okay, we're two different nations. All right, the Ethiopians, you have the Libyans, Egyptians, Ethiopians, and Canaanites. Those are all descendants of Ham. They're Hamites, which are so-called Africans. Those are the Hamites. Now you have the Shemites, which is us. We come from the line of Shem, right? We come from the line of Shem, and we're AKA Israelites. Now you also got other Shemites as well, like Elam, which are the Persians. They come from the line of Shem, but they're not Israelites though. They just come from the line of Shem. Okay, you got the Persians too. They go back to Elam, right? Which Elam goes back to Shem, but they're not Israelites. We're Shemites, and we come from the line of Jacob. So even though we're Shemites, we're Israelites. Okay, because we go from Shem down to Israel, right? Because Father Abraham, he was a Shemite, right? He was a Shemite. But once you get to Jacob, right, whose name was changed to Israel, we come from the line of Jacob, which is Israel. So we're Israelites. We're Shemites, aka Israelites, because we come from the line of Jacob, right? The great great grandson of Father Abraham, right? The great great grandson, the grandson of Father Abraham. All right. So even though we may be melanated and have similar melanated skin, that don't make us the same. Okay. So again, the reason why it says that is because some of our people look like the Ethiopians, but there's a difference between us. These Ethiopians, they look, their forefather goes back to the line of Ham. Okay. But the Israelites, we go back to Shem. All right. So, that's the difference between us. Because in order to be able, in order for you to be able to be an Israelite, your forefather got to be in the line of Shem. Okay, for you to be an Israelite. Father Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right. So that's the only way you're going to be able to be an Israelite. But don't get me wrong, you got the Persians, they do come from Shem, but they don't come through Jacob though. All right? They don't. They're not Israelites. All right? Because the Persians, they do come from Shem though. But they don't come through the line of Jacob though. They don't. That's the difference. All right? So yeah, just to put that in there though. All right? So the Israelites, we go back to Shem, man. And let's get back to it. It says, read the second part. It says, saith the Lord, have not I brought up Israel, right? Out. So like it says, I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Kaphar, and the Syrians from, it says, and the Syrians, like it, and it says, and the Syrians from Tyre, right? So you see, that's a cut, right? The Ethiopians, they weren't taken out of Egypt, all right? The Ethiopians was never enslaved to other Hamites, all right? They weren't slave to other Hamites there. You see that? They never were taken out of Egypt, all right? So the Israelites were sent, right? Were sent out of Egypt from Yahweh, right? Through Moses. So that proves we're the Israelites, and we're different from the Ethiopians, because the Ethiopians never were taken out of Egypt, right? They never were taken out of Egypt, and they never were enslaved to other Hamites. Why would Hamites slave other Hamites? That wouldn't make no sense. The Hamites, they all come from the same lineage of Ham, right? The Ethiopians, the Libyans, the Canaanites, right, and the Egyptians, they all come from the same lineage. Why would they enslave their own people? That wouldn't make no sense. All right, so we were slaves in Egypt, right, and we were sent out of Egypt from Yahweh through Moses, man, right? So, the Israelites were sent out of Egypt from Yahweh, right, through Moses. So that proves we're the Israelites. All right, so you can't put Ethiopians in there, because Ethiopians, they're not Israelites. They Hamites. Now, they may claim to be Jews, but they're not. They Hamites. Don't get me wrong. You might maybe have some Jakes over there in Ethiopia. We don't know. They could be, but them as a whole, as a nation of people, they're Hamites. But you may have some Jakes there. You might have some Jakes mingling in there, maybe. You probably had some Jake men that were over there, probably popped some of them Ethiopian women and had some kids. Yeah, there could be some Jakes in there dwelling within those regions, but them as a whole, all those Ethiopians over there, no, all of those Ethiopians over there are Hamites. They're not Israelites. And I just want to bring that out. All right, I got another precept. This is Exodus 11:7. And it says, Exodus 11:7. It says, but against any of the children of Israel shall not as a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know how that the Lord doeth put a difference between the Ethiopians and Ethiopians in Israel. You see? Because we're two different nations of people. Even though this is talking about Israel and the Ethiopians, the point is that the Hamites and the Israelites, all right, there's a difference between us. All right, there's a difference between us. I mean, the Egyptians, Salakia, the Egyptians. All right, so even though, Salakia, read again, it says that ye may know that the Lord doeth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. So even though this is talking about the Egyptians here, all right, it's still a difference. This is still referring to the same thing. There's a difference between the Ethiopians and the Israelites. We're two different nations. All right, because the Egyptians come from the same line as the Ethiopians. So this proves here in Exodus 11:7 that there's a difference between the Israelites and the Hamites. And the Ethiopians, even though the Ethiopians ain't mentioned here, they still come from the same line as the Egyptians. They're Hamites. So there's a difference between us. We're two different nations, all right? There's a difference between us, all right? So again, even though this is talking about Israel and the Egyptians, the point is in this whole thing is that the Hamites and the Israelites, there's a difference between us. There's a difference between us. So even though it ain't talking about Ethiopians here, it's still making a point. There's a difference between us as a people. There's a difference between the Israelites and the Ethiopians and the Egyptians. There's a difference between all of us. Again, the Israelites, they come from Shem, right? And then we come from the line of Jacob, which is Israelites. So we're Shemites, aka Israelites. Now, the Ethiopians, Egyptians, Libyans, and Canaanites, those are straight Hamites. So we may have melanated skin, right? We may have similar features, but we're different. We're different. We're two different nations. We're not the same. We're not the same. Got a precept to back that up. This is Matthew 10:34. So check this out, right? Because this is the proof that the Lord is going to have a judgment on these Ethiopians as well, because they're heathens. They come from the line of Cush. They're heathens, right? And to also prove, too, I could get out of Scripture showing you about Moses' wife. Moses' wife was an Ethiopian. Moses was an Israelite, but his wife was an Ethiopian. She was a heathen, right? And she bared Moses who? Gershom, which Gershom was what? An Israelite. He was of the tribe of Levi. Because why? His father was Moses. So you can go there too. Moses' wife, Zephra, she was a Cushite. She was an Ethiopian, a heathen. And when you go into Exodus, it goes into how Miriam and Aaron were complaining about Moses' wife being a heathen, being and dwelling around the Israelites, right? Talking about Moses' wife being a heathen, being an Ethiopian. The scriptures talks about that. And what did the Lord do? The Lord plagued Miriam for 7 days, right? With leprosy, right? But it's to show you that Moses' wife was a heathen. An Ethiopian is a heathen. They're not Israelites. I just want to get that out too. You go read the book of Exodus, where it talks about Miriam getting plagued 7 days for talking about Moses' wife being an Ethiopian. She was a heathen. She wasn't an Israelite. So the Ethiopians are heathens. All right. Matthew 10:34, it says, "Think not that I have come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword." So the Lord is coming with a sword. All right. The Lord is coming with a sword, and he's coming to do judgment to the Ethiopians as well. Right. Let me get this out, because the Ethiopians are heathens. Right. Let's get that out. This is Zephaniah 2:12. This is Zephaniah 2:12. Check this out. This is to prove that Ethiopians are not Israelites and that they're heathens. Check this out. Zephaniah 2:12. It says, "Ye Ethiopians also, ye shall be slain by my sword." You see that? It says, "Ye Ethiopians," right? "Ye Ethiopians also, ye shall be slain by my sword." So the Ethiopians are going to be slain by the sword of the Lord. So they're heathens. They're not Israelites. Ethiopians are heathens. Now, they may be over there in Ethiopia claiming to be Jews, just as the Ashkenazis and the Sidonic Jews do. They all claim to be of Israelite descent, but they're not. They're heathens. And they're going to receive a judgment. Okay? They're heathen nations. They're not Israelites. So we do get on the Ethiopians. Matter of fact, I ran into an Ethiopian some time back when we had our camp, and we had an Ethiopian coming up talking about some damn Ethiopian Jew Bible or some crazy stuff like that. And he was claiming to be of Israelite descent, and we're telling him, you're a heathen. If you're Ethiopian, you a damn heathen. And that's why brothers got out that Zephaniah 2:12, right? Because it says right there that the Lord is going to slay Ethiopians. Why would the Lord slay the chosen people? He's not going to slay the chosen people, because the scriptures say in Isaiah 49:6 that he has a preserved, all right? He has a preserved Israel, right? It says the preserved of Israel. Let me get that, man, right? I don't want to butcher the scripture, right? It says that in Isaiah 49, and that's how we know that that's how we know that Ethiopians are heathens. 49:6. Bear with me, right? Look. Isaiah 49:6. It says, and he said, it is the light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob, the 12 tribes, right? And to restore the preserved of Israel. So we know that the preserved of Israel is referring to the remnant. Because when you go to Isaiah chapter 10 and start at verse 20 and read down, it talks about the remnant. When you go to Jude chapter 1, verse 1 all the way to 3, it talks about the remnant. When you go to Isaiah 1 and 9, that talks about the remnant. When you go to Romans 9 and 27, that talks about the remnant, right? It all talks about the remnant, right? It talks about the elect, the remnant there, right? So the Lord is going to restore the preserved of Israel. He's not going to slay he's not going to slay all of Israel. That wouldn't make no sense, because Isaiah 49:6, he says he's going to restore the preserved of Israel, which is the remnant. Because when you go right here, right, Zephaniah 2 and 12, it says, ye Ethiopians also, ye shall be slain by my sword. So why would the Lord slay Israel? If the Ethiopians are Israelites, why would the Lord slay them? That wouldn't make no sense. Because the Lord says he's going to restore the preserved of Israel. So we know that Ethiopians are Hamites. They're not of Israelite descent. Because the Lord is going to preserve a remnant of Israel. Right? What's that? Zechariah 13 and 8. Right? 2/3 therein shall be cut off and die. But a third shall be left therein. Right? So there's going to be a remnant that the Lord is going to preserve, which is the elect. Okay? So in Zephaniah 2 and 12, Ethiopians are heathens, man. They're not Israelites. So what the hell are you talking about? Why we don't get on the Ethiopians? I've got on Ethiopians before. They came by the camp some years back. We got on, the elders even got on, ran into some Ethiopians trying to come with that they're Israelites madness. Y'all heathens, and y'all gonna receive judgment by the Lord. So hey, man, we already wrapped all this up, man. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying. Ethiopians are Hamites. They're not Israelites, man. Okay, they have no blood traits of being Israelite descent whatsoever. They're Hamites. They come from the line of Ham. Okay, they're Hamites. Ethiopians, Egyptians, Libyans, and Canaanites, Hamites. They're not Philistines, Hamites. Hivites, Hamites. Jebusites, Hamites. Those are all Hamites, man. All right. Shechem, right, that raped Jacob's daughter, Dinah, when you read Genesis 34, he was a Hamite. He was a Hivite, if I'm saying it right, a Hivite. Right? A whore, a whore, and I'm saying it right. If I'm saying his father's name right, I think it's Hamar and Shechem, right? They were Hamites. Those are all Hamites, man. Those are all Hamites there. So hey, Lord willing, this lesson is edifying again. Ethiopians are not Israelites, they're Hamites. And the nationality thing, it doesn't matter. Whatever your father is, or whoever your father is, whatever nationality he is titled as in this place called America, if he's not of so-called Negro, Hispanic, or Native American Indian descent, he's not an Israelite. He's a heathen. He's going to be a heathen. The Lord created 18 nations, but he's only dealing with one specific nations out of the 18, right? And the nation that he's dealing with is you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. That's who the Lord is dealing with. So, hey, Lord willing, this lesson is edifying. On to the next one. Shalom.